everyone, it's Belladonna and Weepsy again, here to share more records with you. Music time. If you look, you will see this little cord. It looks like Weepsy is plugged in. I assure you, she's not plugged in. She's the real puppy, just laying on her ravioli heating pad. There you have it. Makes her incredibly lazy and not so interactive. But that's all right. Just being with her is enough. There she is in all her lazy glory. Alright, so we're going to talk more about recent acquisitions. These two were actually at a very reasonable price, and in wonderful condition. Jackets, the sleeves are actually quite nice, and they don't look as if they've been really messed up or anything. The Sisters of Mercy. Every gothy person knows the Sisters of Mercy. It's always going to go back to them for many reasons. Sisters of Mercy. So these two, again, were very lucky finds. Again, you don't often see these original ones, and when you do, they tend to be very expensive. I think together these were 20-some odd, just for both. So that's really good. Sisters of Mercy, 1983. A merciful release. So it's very lucky just to happen to find these two at the same time, in such nice condition. Probably somebody sold them at the same time, or, a good Sisters of Mercy fan is now dead and you own their records. I always say that when I see a lot of records for like one particular artist or band, I say, oh look, somebody who was a big fan of the Sisters of Mercy just died because he has a whole collection of records. Or whatever. I just think, I know it's a morbid and horrible thing to say. And I'm not trying to be horrible, but I am trying to be morbid. Because think about it. How often does someone pass away and their house gets cleaned out and there's like a crate of records or something? And no, this was so-and-so's records from the 1980s or 70s or even further back. What if, very, very elderly person dies? And you find all these old records from way back when. And what do you do with them? Most people don't want to keep them. Some people might have sentimental reasons, but a lot of people don't want them. So you're getting a dead person's records sometimes, which I think is kind of cool in my opinion. You get a dead person's records. And I think you're doing them justice then if that's the case, if you're getting a dead person's records. Because, they're living on through you. This has taken a very weird turn. I don't know where I'm going with this. It's just that I do say that when you see a lot of records from one artist. Oh, a fan of so-and-so. Never mind. So we're going to go on. Another one of my old favorites here that I think is a woman who is a pioneer and a true amazing artist to this day. And this is a cool find, and it was an old one, and I'm very excited to have gotten it. This is Miss Nina Hagen, of course. Look at her there with a little cigarette. And this is really early on. I think this is 1978. Look at her. Look at Nina, who's in her 70s now, I believe. But God, she was just so amazing looking. Even though this isn't like one of her more unusual looks, she got a lot more eccentric and did a lot more unusual things with her dress and style and whatnot. But she's just so cool. Attitude, style, talent. I thought this was a really cool find. This was not a cheapy one. It wasn't super expensive. But it was really cool to have a really nice copy of some old school Nina in her earliest days. If you don't know Nina Hagen, look her up, of course. She is, I should say, still out there, I believe still performing. Just when you think about women who are unique and interesting in the music world, and a lot of times women do get the shaft and things. There's many female artists out there we can all remember and point to as being inspirational and successful. But many of them, especially in the more unusual genres, don't always get the look in they should. Look into Nina Hagen, if you have not already, if you don't know her well. Very cool, unusual, weird, and interesting. All the good things. So, now I have mentioned before my love for Mozart and the film Amadeus and whatnot, and I was lucky enough to find this one. I have a copy of the full-on soundtrack and whatnot, but this was more music from the soundtrack, which is very cool to have as a companion piece to the other because apparently it was a very large soundtrack and they needed more space, I guess. So it has sort of this nice artwork. You have in the back, the tragedy comedy. You've got Tom Hulce there and F. Murray Abraham. It does, it sort of blocks the picture from the original album cover. Because I love the actual tragedy comedy silhouette that is on that is one of my favorite images. If I could get a costume like that, I'd be so happy. You know, I've seen half-assed ones that don't look good. I want one like in the film. I understand it was probably made for the film. Milos Forman had it made or whatever. I get that, okay. I want the comedy and tragedy costume from Amadeus. Is it too much to ask? I have looked into it. I've asked about it. I've looked it up, and it's always some crappy looking thing. I want the proper costume, the big tricorn and everything, and I want to walk around and scare the crap out of people. It's not too much to ask. Apparently it is. I can't find one. So I got more music from Amadeus. I was just happy to find it to put with my other ones, so now I have both record albums of the Amadeus music. Now, I have mentioned many times one of my more favorite artists, and I say artist, who I have a very strong affinity for, and that's Mr. Lou Reed. This particular album, Mistrial, is... I don't know if this is one people like a lot or not. Lou is one of those... I say Lou. I don't... You shouldn't just say their first names as though I know them. I feel weird doing that, but... Mr. Reed. If you look at this, Mr. Reed and the Velvet Underground, his early days with the great David Bowie, working with the great David Bowie. Think about that. The truest sense of the word for a musician as an artist. Just an unusual person, interesting. Of course, later partnered with and then married the great Laurie Anderson, who I've talked about before. Lou Reed he's passed now, of course. Just freaking cool. And this one has some really interesting ones. No Money Down. This particular song, No Money Down. The video for it. Animatronic Lou Reed. I don't want to give it away. It's a very fun video. No Money Down. Also, there's the original rapper, which I think a lot of people think is weird. Lou Reed just did whatever the hell he wanted. He didn't care. And he was still a freaking legend to the very end. Everything about Lou Reed is cool. Anyway, so I was also, again, looking in one of the less expensive type bins. This was a very beat-up copy, but I really always wanted a copy of this, because this is a truly awesome film and film series. But this is a soundtrack everyone freaking knows and you better love. Rocky. Gonna Fly Now, baby. Bill Conti, who also, I believe, did the You're the Best Around song, which was supposed to be in this film, and they went with the Gonna Fly Now instead, so the Best Around one ended up in the Karate Kid. But you hear this music, and you're like inspired to go and exercise and beat people up. You rarely do either one, but it makes you think that for a moment you're like Rocky and you're gonna fly now, and that anything is possible and whatnot, and makes you feel strong. And of course you realize you're not Sylvester Stallone. But it's a nice thing to have. It's got the nice silhouette image of Rocky and Adrian. It's a wonderful film. I love all the Rocky films. But it is true to say the original film is just... Really, it deserved all of the awards and credits and everything that it got. It was a brilliant story. Obviously, Stallone knows how to milk the money maker, and he's probably going to make more, which is cool. It's very cool. But I thought it was really neat. Like, they had the Rocky 2 and the Rocky 3 and the Rocky 4 there. They were getting more expensive. They were nicer copies. This was only a few dollars. And I would have loved to have them all, believe me. Believe me. But just having this is cool. Rocky. Gonna fly now, baby. Look at that. Alright, one more thing that I'd picked up that particular day. I have, interestingly enough, a copy of this. I have a Spanish copy of this, and I found an American copy of it. The James Dean story, the soundtrack to the 1956 film, The James Dean Story. And I had found a Spanish version, and I was just excited to have it, and now I have an American version. James Dean is freaking awesome, alright? He just is, was, always will be. This film was created released about a year after he died. It's weird. This picture's great. Is it like his dead body there, so more or less, laying there with his hand on a little car. Not even the right color car, but I guess it looks better on here. That's fairly morbid and crazy, don't you think? This whole concept of this film, the James Dean story, was morbid and crazy, if you stop and think about it. It's worth a look in. It's very interesting. It's really weird. Very strange. And the music, there's this song, Let Me Be Loved. It's so sappy when you get down to it. The whole legend of James Dean as opposed to the reality. But hey, legends are pretty cool. And I was excited to find this. It's got nice artwork on the back there, Mr. Dean himself. And of course the wonderful Morbid dead in the road playing with your little car picture. Always a cool thing. Now I have a Spanish and an English copy. So those were some of my acquisitions at that moment. Look, I realize again, everyone comes to see Weepsy. But she doesn't give a rat's butt. Look at this. Look at this puppy. What a baby. Do you think she's spoiled? What do you think? I think she's spoiled. I don't know whose fault that is, but I do know I would like to do the sign-off with Madam Weeps. Yeah, don't you snuff at me. Don't you snuff at me. Don't you snuff at me. Thank you, darling. All right, everyone. Bye for now.